Hi guys, in this video we're actually going to look at some Hobbits, this time from Citadel, Games Workshop.
Scruffy Crow.
So yes, after my epiphany a little while back, that what I actually wanted was Hobbit miniatures really, rather than halflings in the traditional sense. I obviously had to check out what Games Workshop has in their range. I'm not too familiar with the Lord of the Rings game or any of the miniatures that came with it. So yeah, but I had a look and there is quite a few on there. There's a Bull Roarer Took that I quite like. I might pick him up at some point. And then there's some sort of militia that is quite expensive with a lady with an umbrella. But there is a guy with a horn in there that I quite like. There's some archers, don't need archers. And there's these guys. So these are the militia. So we've got 4 different sculpts here. We've got a guy with an axe over his head. So these are going to be in my spearman unit, but just like the North Star minis really, they are holding sort of more like two-handed weapons. But yeah, this is quite a fine sculpt. He's quite a delicate little guy, but quite nice. Then we have this guy who's actually holding a little sort of short sword. I might try and change that, or you might end up in the other unit. We've got a guy with an axe over his shoulder. Quite a few of these little vents sticking out all over the place, but there's no bad mould lines or flash or anything that's going to take any clearing up, so it's not going to take me long to get these guys tidied up. Once again, he's got a sort of screaming face. Some lovely details that I can't really pick up on the camera at this stage. And then the last guy in this unit is sort of blacksmith looking dude with an apron on and a big double-handed hammer. I also picked up another box. So this is, as it says on the tab, if we can get that in focus, Farmer Maggot. And he is holding a wonderful scythe I really like the look of. And I picked this, I particularly wanted to pick this guy up, even though he ended up on the bit of a pricier edge, just because I think the way he looked and his face, I think he was going to be one of our best matches for matching my North Star army. He came with 3 more dogs. Now I'm going to admit here that I haven't actually fully read the Lord of the Rings. So these guys, I'm assuming I mentioned, because obviously Farmer Maggot in the Lord of the Rings film is very, I don't think you even see him actually, you only hear his dogs. But yeah, this is Fang, Wolf and Grip. So that's pretty cool. These are quite mean looking little dogs, but they are pretty small. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint these guys up and replace some of the sculpts in my dog unit with these guys, just to sort of vary the sculpts up a little bit. So these guys have come with exactly the right bases that I'm using. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to base these like I've done with some of the Lord of the Rings Hobbits I've had, which is just high on the base like this. And then I'll build that up with a little bit of putty, wood filler, and sand before I sand it, and that'll give them a little bit of extra height as well, which I quite like on these guys. So let's see how they compare. So I've got a couple of North Star minis here that'll be in the same unit, and a Grenadier guy. So this one's probably the best actually to compare. We are pretty close here. I don't think I've seen really any of the miniatures as close as this. The Hobbit minis have got smaller hands and feet, especially the feet isn't quite noticeable. They're a lot finer, but build wise they're pretty much spot on. Height-wise, they're perfect. So they are just that bit slighter all over. But I think when they're in a unit, I think they're going to look really good next to each other. And here we go. Here's the guy in the sort of farmer hat next to one of my North Star guys. And yeah, we're still happy. The build, the height, it's quite a good comparison. So this one kind of accentuates how they are almost a little bit taller and finer. And I believe this is a Forlorn Hope Grenadier sort of halfling. The faces aren't much different because obviously these guys have got slightly smaller faces. But yeah, the hands and the feet are more noticeable. And finally we'll look at this guy. And he's got that kind of slightly rounder face, but his face is still fairly small compared. But yeah, once again, that's actually one of the best matches that I've found miniature wise. And I think he's going to look really good with his scythe up like that. So right, I'll get all these cleaned up, all these little bits of flush and what have you removed. I'll get them stuck down the bases, filled in with a bit of wood filler and a layer of sand. Okay, so the new models have been put on their bases. I've put them on quite shallowly and then just built up around with a bit of the wood filler. This will give them that bit of extra height and make sure the bases look the same as the North Star halflings in the same army. I'll wait until this has dried a little bit and I'll take off some of these sort of peaks with a file real quick, and then we'll get some sand on them. Okay, so these guys were all given a coat of Halford's grey primer, and they instantly dropped them all on the floor. So they'll get another little blast before I go too much further with painting them. But I have started painting the dogs. I'm going to go with sort of Rottweiler sort of looks on maybe that one. I'm going to paint that up like I did my other Mastiffs. I'm still not sure about this one. But yeah, and I'll paint the rest of these guys up very similar to the rest of my halflings, I think. Okay, I'm just getting to the basing stage of my halflings now. I just wanted to show you the full sculpts before I put too many leaves and twigs and bits and pieces on like I have with this. I said the hammers and stuff were still quite delicate. This one ended up a bit sort of bendy looking. But overall I think it's come out quite nicely. These sculpts were quite hard to paint. They're not really the sort of style I'd normally go for. Being quite fine featured, they were a little bit fiddly. It's one of the things that put me off the Lord of the Rings game actually. But I think they've actually come out quite nicely. They definitely got to a point where I thought they were going to look terrible. And then I did things like put eyes in and just did those last few highlights, and they actually look pretty cool. And then we have the dogs. And now I didn't do as good a job on here. This one I was trying to copy the picture off the website. This one I was trying to make a Mastiff, so to try and match in with my troop. As you can see, they are a bit smaller. I've also recently picked up some wolfhounds, and they're a bit bigger, so I'm hoping, you know, mix them all together, and we've got like a good varied size pack of dogs. And then there's the kind of one that actually I wasn't sure about that sculpt on the website, but it's actually my favourite one. Now I've got it in my hand, sort of slinking around like that. So after seeing how these are painted up and the sort of style of the sculpting, I said they're not the best sculpts as in technically, and they're not really my favourite style, but they are nice little figures. And I will actually be picking up. I'm definitely going to pick up the Bull Roarer Tuck on the horse, I think, because yeah, I think that'll be an interesting one to paint. Okay, and here they are all based up and ready to defend Hobbiton. As ever, I've gone completely OTT with my bases. Big, fluffy bases, which hopefully when the whole army's based like this, will tie it all together. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments. Maybe subscribe for more. And as ever, thanks for watching. Bye.